Alright, so in this problem, I have 2 to the power of x is equal to 1/4 to the power of x squared. And I want to find the value of x here. So, for my solution, I'm going to first start by rewriting my equation. So I have 2 to the power of x is equal to 1/4 to the power of x squared. And now I'm going to first start by rewriting 4 here as 2 squared. So now I have 2 to the power of x is equal to 1/2 squared to the power of x squared. And if I have something in the form 1/a to the power of m, this is the same thing as a to the power of negative m, meaning 1/2 squared, that's simply going to equal 2 to the power of negative 2. And I have this to the power of x squared. Now, if I have something in the form a to the power of m to the power of n, this is equal to a to the power of m times n. So 2 to the power of negative 2 to the power of x squared, that's going to equal 2 to the power of negative 2 times x squared. And negative 2 times x squared, that's negative 2x squared. So now, if I have something in the form a to the power of m is equal to a to the power of n, this means that m is equal to n. So in this case, I have a to the power of m, I have 2 to the power of x is equal to 2 to the power of negative 2x squared. Notice how x and negative 2x squared, they're going to equal each other because both of these have the same basis. So I have x is equal to negative 2x squared. And to solve this, I'm actually going to divide both sides by x. So I get, these two cancel out, so I get 1 is equal to negative 2 times x. And now we have a simple equation. All I have to do is divide both sides by negative 2 because we want to isolate x. And I'm left with x is equal to negative 1/2. So this is my answer to this problem. Alright, so in this problem, I have 2 to the power of x minus 1 plus 2 to the power of x minus 2 plus 2 to the power of x minus 3 is equal to 448. So now if I have a to the power of m plus n, this is equal to a to the power of m times a to the power of n. So in this case, I have m here, this is equal to x, and n is equal to negative 1 for 2 to the power of x minus 1. So that's going to turn into 2 to the power of x times 2 to the power of negative 1. Now I have this plus 2 to the power of x minus 2. That's going to equal 2 to the power of x times 2 to the power of negative 2. And 2 to the power of x minus 3, that's going to equal 2 to the power of x times 2 to the power of negative 3. Now I have this is equal to 448. Now 2 to the power of negative 1, that's the same thing as 1/2, which is, now if I multiply that by 2 to the power of x, I get 2 to the power of x over 2. Now I have this plus 2 to the power of x over 2 squared plus 2 to the power of x over 2 to the power of 3, and this is equal to 448. Now if I factor out 2 to the power of x, I get 2 to the power of x times 1/2 plus 1/2 squared plus 1/2 to the power of 3. This is equal to 448. Now this is equal to 1/2 plus 1/4 plus 1/8. This is equal to 448. Now 1/2 plus 1/4, that's going to be 6/8, which is equal to 3/4. 3 over 4 plus 1/8, that's going to be 7 over 8. So now I have 7 over 8 times 2 to the power of x is equal to 448. Now we want to isolate 2 to the power of x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 7 over 8. So then these two cancel out, and I get 2 to the power of x is equal to 448 times 8 over 7. Now, 448 times 8, that's equal to 3,584. Now I have this over 7, which is equal to 512. So I 2 to the power of x equals 512, meaning x is equal to 9. Alright, so in this problem, I have x to the power of 4 minus 9 is equal to 0. So I'm going to first start by rewriting x to the power of 4 as x to the power of 2 times 2. And now I have this minus 9 is equal to 0. So if I have something in the form a to the power of m times n, this is equal to a to the power of m to the power of n. So x to the power of 2 times 2, that's going to equal x to the power of 2 to the power of 2 minus 9 is equal to 0. Now I'm going to rewrite negative 9 here as negative 3 squared. And if I have something in the form a squared minus b squared, this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So in this case, a is equal to x squared and b is equal to 3. So now I'm going to be left with x squared plus 3 times x squared minus 3 is equal to 0. So now this is going to give me two equations. I get x squared plus 3 is equal to 0, and I get x squared minus 3 is equal to 0. So for x squared plus 3 equals 0, I can subtract 3 on both sides. So I get x squared is equal to negative 3. And now I'm going to take the square root on both sides. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of negative 3, that's going to equal the square root of 3 times the square root of negative 1. And if you guys already know, the square root of negative 1 is equal to I. So I get x is equal to positive negative square root of 3i. Now for x squared minus 3 equals 0, this is much simpler than the other one. All I have to do is add 3 on both sides, and I get x squared is equal to 3. And now, if I take the square root on both sides, the square root of x squared is x, so I get x is equal to positive or negative square root of 3.